the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food, Henry's soul food. What do you need? Soul food, Henry's soul food.
Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, brought to you by Golden Crust Bakery, the fastest growing Caribbean-owned franchise in the United States. Golden Crust is committed to the delivery of quality food and excellent customer service. Visit them today at goldencrustbakery.com. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. We're live. Hello everybody, how you doing? Let me try to turn myself down here. I'm a little loud. Okay, much better, much better, much better. So we're waiting on our guest. I think he was delayed. Richard Prince, you're not on the air, are you? No. Our guest is delayed. Everybody wants him on the air, so including us. So Richard is delayed. But Dr. Gary Barnard will be joining us later in the broadcast. Yes. So we're just gonna talk about family today, and we're gonna talk about ownership. We're gonna talk about the importance of ownership. How many of you that listen to this show are? Well, there he is, Richard Prince. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
You have such a laid-back personality. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Same to you.
So how you doing, Richard?
Well, I was thinking about ownership.
And I'm thinking about ownership.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Good combination. Listen, I have to tell you, I couldn't wait on your person to send me the Whitney Young piece.
Yes.
So I had to go and do my own homework, and I was fascinated by it.
Ah.
It really struck a chord because we don't talk about that enough.
Right.
But before we get to that, talk about, I think what you do is so important. I got to tell you, I guess I never realized the kind of influence that you command around the world. I'm telling you.
My goodness.
People read you. And listen, I'm not blowing sunshine, brother.
Aha.
No, I'm not blowing sunshine. But talk to us about exactly what you do and why ownership, especially minority ownership, black ownership, is so important in the business marketplace.
Well, I write about diversity issues in the news business 3 times a week for the website of the Barnard Institute for Journalism Education, and it also appears on The Root. And one of the reasons why ownership is important was just demonstrated by my most recent column, which was about the former editor of Essence magazine, Constance White, who says that she was fired from managing Essence because of clashes she had with Time Inc., which bought Essence magazine from what was a previously black company. And the clear implication is that had the company remained black-owned, there would not have been these clashes because the clashes were about how black women should be portrayed. So that's one example of how black ownership can make a difference. It was a big deal when it happened because Essence magazine was one of the few big black-owned publications, and it went to Time Inc. ownership about the same time that Bob Johnson sold Black Entertainment Television to Viacom, leaving Black Enterprise magazine and Ebony and Jet as really the major players in black ownership in the media. I was just reading, speaking of Black Enterprise, this prompted me to get a copy of the most recent issue, and the cover story is about natural hair, the business of natural hair. And in there, they point out that it used to be that black hair products were owned by black companies. And I remember writing a few years ago about how they were being squeezed out by the big white-owned cosmetics companies, and they banded together, and they marked all their products black-owned. It was called the Proud Lady. They had a symbol on them. But as the article points out, that wasn't enough, and now all those products you see, Dark and Lovely, et cetera, are all owned by white companies. And this article is about how black entrepreneurs are trying to get back in the game by finding this little niche in that business for natural hair and claiming that as their own. So it's a struggle throughout the business world, and of course it doesn't involve only blacks. It's also indicative of the struggles that small businesses face in general against conglomerates and big companies. So that's one of the examples I can give you about why ownership is important.
You know, I grew up in a culture of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
My parents owned then, and it remains in the family, a 500-acre estate. I grew up with about 2,000 head of swine, hundreds of horses and cattle. And so I grew up at age 12 or 13 that I was responsible for the taxes. So I had to learn to do the farm taxes, and I also had to pay the workers on the farm. And it's so interesting when you grow up working for your parents. And I remember when my father was contemplating my going to college, and he was telling me I should study economics or something to do with business, because you can never, that degree and that learning experience will last you for a lifetime. And I remember when I came to Washington in the 80s, and I was looking for a place to rent. He said something to me that was pretty startling as I look back upon it now. He said, rent? He said, they're not making any more land in D.C. You're going to own a place. You need to buy a place. You got to think ownership. He said, you should never pay somebody else's rent, somebody else's mortgage, somebody else's note. You should, everything you have, whether you have offices someday, where you live, whatever it is, you should own it. And I'll never forget my experience of buying my first place. And I almost took a bath, and I told my father how I sort of got ripped off. He said, no, you're in your early 20s. You didn't get ripped off. It's a learning experience. So when you finally get on the track and you start running real fast because of what you've learned, then you make it your footstool. But sometimes you have to take a loss to have a great gain. And so that mentality led me that I've only worked for someone else 4 years of my life. I grew up with the mentality that I had to always own. And even though it's expensive, there are a lot of risks that are involved, I always know this. No one can never say no to my ideas. And if my ideas fail, it's because they're my ideas, not because somebody denouncing my ideas. And so what I'm trying to say to you is that you have to grow up in a culture, because there's a certain attitude about ownership. There's a certain confidence about ownership, whether it starts out with real estate, whether it starts out with a public relations firm, whether it starts out with syndication, and whether it ends up with ownership of media assets. Ownership does the same. It teaches you to be independent. It teaches you to manage people, but it teaches you skills that you could never learn working for someone else.
Well, that's true. But what happens when it becomes a choice of owning your business or selling it to someone else and thinking that you can make even more money that way? That's what the situation was with Bob Johnson, and also with Ed Lewis with Essence Magazine.
And you know, that's a part of it. You have a right to build a brand and build it and make it so lucrative that you can sell that. That's a part of the marketplace, supply and demand. Sometimes people build it to sell it, to gain greater value, so they can purchase something else.
Yes, that's true. But the missing element in that are the consumers. And some of the consumers of both BET and Essence Magazine say that this is not the way it started. This is not what I started consuming. I consumed the product that I thought reflected my philosophy, and it turns out it's really reflecting the philosophy of some conglomerate.
But businesses are not built to hire people. People are hired out of necessity in order to make the people grow because they bring a value that the CEO cannot bring alone. That business is started strictly for the CEO. It may become an employee-employer relationship, and it will multiply and grow into something very special for the employees. But that CEO ultimately is not building that company for employees.
No, I'm talking about the public, not the employees. For the consumers. In other words, BET, some feel, had a responsibility to its public, not just to the stockholders, to the viewers, and the same with Essence Magazine to its readers. People identify with these publications and these media entities and view them as their own. So what responsibility does the owner have to those customers who made it the business that it is?
Because while they may use a certain audience, an ethnic audience, to build their brand, buy their brand, and make them believe in that brand, and they may think they'll make them believe that we're here for the people, we're here, this is ours, this is for us, this is something that we can be proud of. That's just rhetoric until it's tested. We're going to come back. This is a good conversation. Richard Prince from Journalism. Journalism, you got to read it. You got to read it. We'll tell you how when we come back. Don't go away. Call us, we see you.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Cross's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Cross near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrossBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make $100 million or $10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams, expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea.
Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the Armstrong Williams Show with our guest, Richard Prince. You know, black-owned businesses have not really fared particularly well as independent actors in this age of consolidation. Truly suffered heavy attrition rates due to a surge of mergers and buyouts over the course of the last 2 or 3 decades, actually. And many of these companies had long histories, as Richard Prince was mentioning, with the African-American community, becoming household names associated with the fulfillment of black Americans' business ambitions and ambitions of the black community to be able to call something their own and be proud of it. But changing economic conditions, however, prompted business owners across the United States to realign their resources and consolidate their efforts in a drive to increase efficiency and competitiveness. And so black-owned businesses could not sit idly by in the face of this profound change overtaking American business. They had to act or risk being left behind. We see it with major companies, not just with black businesses, but how much of allegiance, and I think this is the question that's being raised, do they owe to the blackness and the people that gave them the capital, gave them the belief, and gave them the marketplace to make them a brand? I go back and look at what happened when Industrial Bank was founded in the early 30s. All these blacks pooled their money together. They put it in this bank. They were able to survive through the Great Depression, and that bank exists today. It's rare, but it exists today. But do you think in that community they have the kind of financial power that can help these institutions withstand these changing economic winds, Richard Prince?
Well, some can. I think Supreme Life is still around also. And in the media world, John H. Johnson felt very strongly that his company was black-owned. And I went to the funeral in Chicago, and that was a point that was made not only by his associates, but by Earl Graves, who has maintained black enterprise as a black business. There's another example of the importance of ownership, too, that I just wrote about, and that's Soledad O'Brien of CNN. Now, many people know that Soledad O'Brien is known for, in addition to being an anchor on that network, the Black in America series and Latino in America. Well, a new president came into CNN recently named Jeff Zucker, and he was known for what he's been able to do with morning shows. And unfortunately, Soledad O'Brien was already at the morning show on CNN, so he decided that she had to go, and someone else would be brought in. And Soledad O'Brien did some negotiating, and she said, okay, well, I'll leave my morning show, and in fact, I'll leave CNN and strike a deal with you so that I can form a production company and sell my products to CNN, but also to other networks. And what I also want is the rights to Black in America and Latino in America. And so now she owns that franchise. And she said, I quoted her, I'll get to leave CNN with my catalog and documentaries. We were able to create a brand at CNN, Black in America, that I now own. I can take that brand and extend it in any way I want. You have Netflix and all these channels that are looking for interesting and different ways to tell stories. To have ownership of Black in America and Latino in America is hugely important.
Wow, that's a remarkable story. I don't know, do you remember Rocawear?
No, I don't.
It was a well-established clothing brand belonging
to I do remember that.
Jay-Z. He was making $700 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, it was purchased in the late 2000s by Iconic Brand Group. And Jay-Z retained his role in product development, marketing, and the licensing. And so, in addition to that, to the $204 million doled out by Iconics, the acquisition contract stipulated that Jay-Z would be paid an additional $35 million if the brand met its targeted sales figure for the next year under his leadership. And guess what? Iconic aimed to generate $1 billion in sales from the company following the acquisition, and they did.
All right.
So it's all about how you negotiate it, and you sometimes don't really lead, but you have that infusion of cash and less risk taking of your money.
Yes.
So
Yes, I agree. But when you're talking about media properties, I think there's an added element to it, and that is that you're dealing with information that is crucial for people to be informed citizens. That's why we have the First Amendment, and the press is the only industry that's protected by the Constitution. And so when you're messing with the way people get their information, it's not the same as a clothing company, for example. And that's why people feel more of an allegiance and feel they have more of a stake in an information company and what they're doing. That's why people were very upset with BET when all they did was booty shaking, and when Essence was sold to Time Inc. So you have all those dynamics in addition to the regular business dynamic.
Here's the question. In your mind and from your experience, what is a black business?
Well, a black business is one that, if you talking about a black-owned business, then that's one thing, yes, a black-owned business. There are black-owned businesses that do not cater to the black community. They're just businesses like any other business. They just happen to be owned by a black person. In fact, I remember that there was, I've forgotten her name, but she owned a big PR firm in Chicago, and she never put her face on any of the publicity for that because she didn't want known that she was a black person. She was just operating a business. Then you have other businesses that identify strongly with the black community, such as the ones we've been discussing, and they get a lot of allegiance from the black African American community. So those are black businesses in the way we traditionally think of them.
So when you think about where do you think the largest concentration of black ownership exists, and why, and where it needs to exist more, where it's really inadequate?
Well, I think that it needs to exist more in the media, and I'm sure that when the word gets out in those communities where you've now got those stations, people will be expecting, the African Americans will be expecting more of you as an African American owner than they would if it were owned by somebody who was not African American. Do you agree or not?
It's already happening. Trust me.
I'd like to hear about that.
Trust me. You have no idea. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you.
Yes.
You know, I don't run around wearing my race hat.
Yes.
But I'm very connected to that community. Very much so. And I'm very connected to it. But I will tell you this. I was never more pleasantly surprised at the pride from people who don't really agree with me on much, but they felt it was a crowning achievement for them. It was progress for them, that they are part of that success too. I've had liberal talk show hosts text and call me and say, man, I can't talk about you on this one because my audience is eating me alive. They said, no, leave that brother alone. What that brother just did, hey, look, I'm serious. I have never gotten so much love, you can hear it in my voice, so much love and respect from anything I have ever done.
There you go.
Why? It shocked me. I wasn't prepared for it. It's really a good feeling.
Well, that's good. That's good. And you see, African Americans think that way because they know what a struggle it has been, a collective struggle, for them to get into these positions where they can own stations, and so and all these other businesses. So we all, as we make progress, we all realize we're standing on the shoulders of others, and there's a sense of pride in that we've been able to progress by sticking together and making these achievements, so that we can have these things.
And you know what? I embrace it, and I'm very sensitive to issues. If people listen to my shows that we have you on, I mean, a plethora of people. I mean, because it's important, and because you have something to say. Your perspective is so important. And if we can celebrate diversity and race at the same time, listen, wonderful. But there are certain experiences and certain things that we've been exposed to and certain things that we understand that just some people just cannot bring to bear to the marketplace of media. We're unique in that way, and I don't run away from that. In fact, I run to it and embrace it.
Good, yes. I mean, that's the beauty of diversity. We all bring something from our experiences to the table.
I do find this story about that you just mentioned about Essence Magazine, because you know what? I read all your stories. Literally. I read them all. And I found it very interesting why she was terminated, because she did not want that black culture. She did not want the black feel her new boss for the magazine.
Right.
They wanted the subscriptions, but they didn't want to give it that black flavor. They were trying to make it into something different.
Right.
And because in her mind, blackness was not helping the bottom line.
Yeah, it's sad, and somebody pointed out that this happens in a more subtle way. That I know one of the readers was pointing out how they had the same 5 celebrities. They're rotating them for the cover, and the black editor was saying, "Wait a minute, there's more to black women than these 5 people," and things like that. And it's I don't know. People, it's very interesting reading the comments from readers. They basically say 2 things. Number one, it never should have been sold to Time Inc. in the first place. It should have remained black-owned. And number 2, she should go out and form her own company and put out her own magazine the way she wants. And, of course, a lot of other people say that's easier said than done.
But Essence was bleeding.
Was it bleeding?
Yes, they were bleeding.
Okay.
Remember,
I was not aware of that.
Remember, Ebony and Mr. Johnson owned 20% of them at one time.
Yes, in the beginning. And Gordon Parks and some other people as well, yes.
Yes. They own. Let me raise this with it. But, when Time Inc. does this, there's not the outcry from the community and the media. Let's just say if something like that had happened at a network like Fox or some conservative magazine. Do you think there's a double standard that they think they can get away with these things?
Well, there was nothing that was really blatantly offensive that Essence was doing. It was more subtle.
We're going to come by and tell people I can reach you and let you go. We'll be back. Richard Prince is our guest.
Okay.
Don't go away.
Yes.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
You know, Richard, I can't recall a faster half hour in radio, man.
Oh, good. It has gone fast. That's true.
It's gone fast. So tell, do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
I would like to be one, but it's not really in my genes.
It's not.
I need to be one.
So tell us where they can read your journalisms.
At MIJE.org. M as in mother, IJE.org, which stands for Maynard Institute for Journalism Education.
And what days are they published?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
And it's also published on The Root. And tell us what The Root is.
TheRoot.com.
TheRoot.com.
Right.
Is that a spinoff of the Washington Post?
Yes, the Washington Post created that with Henry Louis Gates, who was the Harvard faculty member and Black history expert.
And it's exclusively for Black Americans?
No. It's multicultural.
Oh, it is?
It's about diversity, not just about African Americans. Hispanics, Native Americans, Asian Americans, and others who fit into that diversity umbrella.
So they post your isms on their website?
Yes.
You have your own little ownership space?
I suppose that's one way to look at it, yes.
Yes. Tell our audience a little about yourself, though, before you go.
All right. Well, I've been a journalist for a long time. I'm originally from New York. I've worked at the Washington Post for many years. We had what we called the Black College Wire, which was a way for the students at historically black colleges to communicate with each other and improve their newspapers, and have been active in the National Association of Black Journalists as well.
You know, it has to be difficult for you coming up with these fresh stories. Obviously, what kind of canvassing do you use to keep up on top of what's really breaking and what's going on? And how do you discern what is news and what isn't?
Well, it's an old-fashioned shoe leather, and developing a good network of people who will tell you, let you know what's going on, and keeping in touch with them. And also keeping in touch with what's going on the internet these days. So all those things are important. It's your training is to find out information, and those are ways of doing it.
And is there anything else that you do beyond the journalisms that you post on Monday, Wednesday?
No, that's my main thing these days.
That's enough, right?
right, exactly. Well, I enjoy it, and I hope to see all the listeners online.
Yes, they will. Give them that website again.
www.mije.org.
Richard Prince, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Armstrong, and thank you to your listeners.
You're welcome. We are living in stressful times, according to Dr. Gary Barnard. And when Dr. Gary Barnard is not with us on Monday, I get the emails, I get the letters. It's not because of Dr. Gary Barnard. It's because of my crazy schedule. So it is. I just want to make sure that Dr. Barnard is always ready to participate. So we're going to talk about stressful times today. As humans, we cannot feel two opposing emotions at the same time. We cannot be relaxed and tense or anxious at the same time because of the principle of reciprocal inhibition. Think about it. You cannot be fearful and peaceful, tall and short, or in the light and in the dark at the same time. One inhibits the other from being experienced. Therefore, if deep relaxation is taught through peaceful imagery and deep muscle relaxation as a conditioned response to a feared object, anxiety cannot be felt at the same time. Dr. Barnard, welcome back to the show. We cannot wait to hear you talk about this fascinating topic.
Oh, my goodness gracious. That makes me feel great already. That relaxed me.
Yes.
Just listening to you read relaxed me.
Thank you.
How are you, Armstrong?
Good.
Excellent. Well, we do live in stressful times. I suppose at all times humans can say that, but with the way the world is expanding these days with technology, information overload, it's just one of the most devastating things we see in mental health is just this increased stress and the damage that does. I mean, for years, it's been well known that about 85% of all primary care doctor's visits are stress-related kinds of things. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not having some physical symptoms, but it typically would indicate that they're not originally organically based, meaning it's not something physical, it's more mental stress and our being out of balance and having inadequate skills and training and so forth to manage stress so that it doesn't impact our physical body that way. That's just one area, but as a child psychologist, most of what I see is somewhat related to stress, much of it mainly related to stress. So, children who are very anxious, and one reason I'm putting this out is just get the discussion going, but springtime especially is a very anxiety producing time for parents and children, especially in our state, and any state educationally that has some kind of standardized testing that is presumably supposed to tell us if our children are learning. And we have now the STAR test. It was the TACS. Before that, it was the TOS. It's all of these standardized tests. And, teachers start day one in the fall preparing kids for that. And in the spring, they really step it up. It's all you hear kids and parents talking about in the spring. And we're moving toward it. March, April are the benchmarks and then these tests. So that's just one area. But, then it generalizes. Children have trouble sleeping. They don't eat right. They're more moody. And if you just take anxiety, chronic anxiety, that is related to chronic stress, unmanaged stress, that alone is responsible for much of what we see as reactionary or adjustment-like depression. And it makes sense. If you're under pressure for longer than normal times, our body just isn't, it's not set up in order to handle that kind, it's not engineered, if you will, to handle that kind of stress chronically. And so secondarily, we get a down mood. We have lower energy. We feel exhausted. It's like this engine that's forever running, and it just sucks up all of our fuel, and we don't go anywhere. And so talking about anxiety and stress management is a huge thing. I don't know why it is. I can have some conjectures, but we don't teach this in our homes. We don't teach it in churches. We don't teach it in our schools. It's not part of the curriculum. We teach language and mathematics and all the science, all those things that are very important, but this is something that is incredibly important in all of our lives, and we just don't teach these skills, and they're rather simple, and they're based on natural principles that everyone sees and has to live by.
What is it that people do? Because not everybody is stressed out in stressful jobs. Everybody handles it different. What is it that people need to do to lessen the stress? And to understand that being in sometimes in very challenging situations is just a part of life. How do you not allow the stress to become an illness and become an asset?
Well, some of it's mental discipline, and some people have a little bit more of this temperament that is well suited for managing stress. In other words, they tend to sort of automatically, they're part of genetic makeup and temperament that they're born with and that they grow up with, but they're able to let go of things quicker than others. Others of us hang on to things, and it's very difficult to turn that switch off and let it slide away and then move on to something else. So we tend to obsess over certain things, and that's one of the main sort of anxiety-related problems that intensifies stress so that it's chronic. Other things, yes.
That is certainly a blessing. When there's an issue, I deal with it, and I move on. I don't take it with me. Never come back to it.
See, I think that's a blessing because likely you sort of had that temperament. Maybe it was modeled for you as a youngster, but it's something that you found over time is strengthened in that it gives you a better response. And so it's reinforced, and we go to it more frequently. And those are part of the natural principles that we live by. Another thing, though, Armstrong, is we can actually plan for this more than just trying to discipline our thinking. That's one of the major things, because our thoughts bring about feelings. Our thoughts and feelings generally guide or direct behaviors. But another thing is just going straight to the behavioral part, the body. We can learn to train our bodies to relax. And if we just did that every day for about 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes in the morning, maybe 10 minutes in the evening, there are plenty of studies that show we can learn to lower our blood pressure, lower our heart rate, relax muscles, to feel more peaceful, and it becomes a more ingrained sort of go-to automatic thing, so that when we're under stress, all we have to do is recognize it, start taking deep breaths, and we go back into that same mode of relaxation.
Hold there. We're coming back to Dr. Gary Barnard. Our phone lines are open. 1-866-620-6620, 733-5620, info@rightsidewire.com.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Cross's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean, only at a Golden Cross near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrossBakery.com.
For more information on The Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
So we're talking about how some people are better able to manage the stress than others and just move on.
Yes.
Please continue.
Some people find randomly, they just sort of bump into things that work and they'll hang on to them. But some of those things are not sustainable and consistent with overall good health. One of them might be alcohol, too much alcohol, or drugs, or sex, or they're gambling, or there are all kinds of behaviors that are drive reduction systems, meaning there's a pressure that builds up and then we release it. Hunger is that way. So many people go to eating. It's sort of stress-induced and stress reduction kind of eating. So they'll sit down in front of a TV and eat a bag of chips or something like that. Or they drink too much alcohol. Or they're sexually promiscuous just as a way to kind of manage their own stress. And, the difficulty is that physically each of those things really does reduce stress temporarily. But then it builds stress up more and keeps it chronic because it doesn't manage it all the time. So we have to go back to it over and over. So the real key here is find some sustainable, manageable ways that are also consistent with our value system and our health. And if we can do that and just create some good habits, we've talked about habits before, create some good habits. This is sort of just a unconscious, natural, automatic pilot kind of way to live life. But it does take some discipline. And, in the midst of our stressful lives, a lot of people just don't carve out that kind of time to really take care of themselves and keep things more balanced. This is just the way it is these days. Now, I'm not saying it has to be that way, but it will be that way unless we put something in its place, and it needs to be thoughtful and proactive, I think. So hence the reason to start teaching these skills to our children, the younger the better. And it's easy to do. I know I started with my grandchildren when they were old enough, well, even before they could speak. You can teach them to relax and to calm down just by rubbing their forehead. There are a lot of these what are called neural bundles right in that frontalis muscle in the forehead. And, if you've ever had anyone really just rub that, you could go to sleep pretty quickly. Rubbing one's feet also does that. And so there are a lot of ways just to relax the body. And if you can pair that with something that's sort of stressful, nighttime behavior, when kids are coming up on bedtime, it's a very scary time for some. And if they're anxious already, it's easy to generalize that to darkness and all the fears that are conjured up with darkness. It's just a matter of teaching these habits that are portable. We can pick them up and carry them to all different parts of our life. Wouldn't that be nice if we taught that at a very early age? Children just had that going for them from the get-go. That would be a wonderful gift.
People are different. Are people stressed because of family life, because they feel inadequate in the career choices that they made? They don't feel that they're growing. They have not realized their potential. Is it because they compare themselves to others and feel like they could be doing so much more? I mean, what is it?
Sure, that's part of it. I mean, people may say that that's not the main stressor in their life, but with many it is. And as you say, you are bombarded with people's great careers and money and the ability to buy and have and travel and all these things that we're bombarded with all the time in magazines and on the media. And, yeah, it makes a lot of people feel very inadequate. And then this becomes a chronic stressor. And yet, they may not be actually doing anything to better their career or make better career choices that would serve them and their family better. But that's one of the sort of byproducts of anxiety and the way it manifests. Many times, and think about it, if we're anxious because we see an elevator and we're afraid to get on elevators, well, our first go-to defense against that kind of feeling is to avoid it, walk away, and then we feel better. The problem is the next time we see an elevator, we feel worse because we've never learned that we can get on it and successfully navigate going up and down on an elevator. And so this same thing is true even with career choice. We avoid doing the very thing that would relieve the chronic stress by just sort of avoiding and giving in and becoming complacent. But then we wake up every day and we're right in the same spot. Interesting dynamics, huh?
But is it that people need a new definition of understanding that every day we go older and wiser, and in that wisdom and aging process, you've got to learn something to understand that life has its peaks and valleys, but the bottom line is no one is special. Everyone has their challenges in life, and people deal with them differently. And when you can look at any human being, any individual, and you see the success and the kind of life that you have, you can have the same. Success is no accident. It's just a life of hard work and sacrifices.
That's exactly right. It's, yes, certainly it involves opportunity, but we have to be prepared and we have to take advantage of that opportunity. And you're right. We're not all equal. And I think one of the most unfair things we can do is treat unequal people equally. But we do have the right for equal opportunities. We do have the right to become and do all that we can do. And yet, many people choose not to. Now, if we line up 100 people and we pull out the ones we might say are successful, and I don't mean just with money, I mean just successful individuals, you will see their habits and their routines and things like that are very different than those who are not successful. And that's what we're looking at. What is the difference? It's not that they're any better. We're all worth the same. Nobody's worth more. I'm not better than anyone. No one is better than I. But the outcome of my behavior is going to be specific to my behavior. And so will it be to you and to others. And those are the things we can start looking for, not because we're comparing ourselves, but it's a way of just growing and, like you said, becoming wiser, learning what works. But not everybody does that, Armstrong. Many people are overwhelmed and they just quit.
Is that more imagining, or is that the reality they created?
Well, I think it's the reality that we create, but if we just ponder this for a second, I think our thoughts are the biggest generator of our reality. The way we think creates our reality. And that's a wonderful thing in many ways, because if we can dream big and stay focused on certain things, it's more likely we're going to be there. That's our destination. But if we're overwhelmed and we're negative and pessimistic and give up easily and have those thoughts of defeatism, that's generally what happens.
But you know what? It's easy to give in to defeatism. It really is. It's not rocket scientist.
No, that's true. It is. If it wasn't, everybody would be doing all that we need to be doing. It isn't easy. That's true. And we've talked about this before. Our brain is sort of built into a negative in a way. And so we have to determine, after understanding that we need to discipline a different way of thinking, a different attitude. I'd like Coach Larry Hayes, a baseball coach at Texas Tech for years, very successful college baseball coach, had on the practice jerseys and in the locker room this written out in a math formula, and it said attitude plus effort plus every day equals success. I love that because we're in charge of our attitude and our effort and whether we do it every day or not.
And we're also in charge of the people we choose to associate with. My attitude is you show me the 6 people who you are influenced by more than anyone else, and I can tell you who you are.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. I had a history teacher in the 7th grade. I'll never forget him. He would stand in front of the class and say, "Birds of a feather flock together." And if he said it once, he said it maybe 10 times a class period. And that was perfect age, because that's when you're getting into cliques and hanging out with the right or wrong kids and all that. But that's true.
Yeah, you're known by...
Want to be successful? So, yeah, surround yourself with successful people. Want to be happy? Surround yourself with happy people that smile a lot.
A little smile can go a long way, Dr. Barnard. How can people get more information about you?
You can find me on www.thepower-parent.com. And I've written a new book, Becoming a Power Parent. And you can also check that out on all the internet sites, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes.
Well, we appreciate having you on. Just want to thank you so much for joining us. And what's your website again?
www.thepower-parent.com.
Thank you so much for
I'm glad to be here.
We are too. We're glad to be a part of it. Thank you, Dr. Barnard.
You bet. Have a great week.
You too. And want to thank you all so much for joining us. We want to thank our earlier guest, Richard Prince. Have a blessed day.
Hello, everyone. This is Armstrong. We are on the right side. Don't speak English.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please